to First Things First, everyone. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright.
You know what we got tonight?
Game 7.
We got a Game 7, CC.
It's what we wanted. It's what baseball wanted. I'm not sure it's what the Dodgers and Astros wanted, but we got ourselves a Game 7.
No, the most important thing is not the enthusiasm. It's for Fox. It's good for business.
Yeah, it is good for business.
Keep that thing rolling, baby.
It's good for the network.
No, it's good for baseball.
It is. This series has been great for baseball.
Right?
It's been great for baseball.
Yeah, it's great for our job, too.
Yeah, okay, CC very self-focused.
Who's wearing the business cap?
Yes.
All right, here's why there was a Game 7, because there was a Game 6 that looked like this. Astros with a 3-2 series lead. As we head back to Los Angeles, we pick this up in the top of the third. No score. George Springer gets the Astros on the board with a solo shot off starter Rich Hill. His fourth of the series. It's 1-0 Astros. Hill lasted 4 2/3. Did they pull him too early? I don't know. We'll discuss. We jump ahead to the bottom of the sixth. Same score. Justin Verlander had been dealing up to this point. Runners on first and second. Chris Taylor's at the plate. No more. Doubles to right. That brings home Austin Barnes. It's a tied game. A Corey Seager sac fly would make it 2-1 Dodgers. We head to the seventh. Still 2-1 Dodgers. Jock Peterson taking the 1-2 fastball. That is deep. That is off Joe Musgrove. He is fired up. He didn't even play in the NLDS, but he played last night. Dodgers up 3-1. All right, bottom 9, Kenley Jansen gets Carlos Beltran to strike out, his second 6-out performance in the World Series. That, my friends, is your ball game. Dodgers even it up at 3 games apiece to force the ever-popular World Series Game 7. Here's Dodgers manager Dave Roberts after the game talking about the anticipation of Game 7.
Talking about a Game 7 in the World Series, and here we are. I know that we're happy to be at home, and tonight was very energetic, exciting. I know we love being in front of our fans, and I know we'll be ready to win a baseball game.
Okay, so we have what we wanted. We have ourselves a Game 7. So my question to you, Cece, what was your takeaway from this Game 6?
Well, first of all, we have to try to recover from a historic Game 5. And how do we match that type of excitement and drama? It's really hard to do. It was really back to what postseason baseball is about.
Yeah.
Good pitching, the crowd's into the game. Good pitching is going to be better than good hitting. So that's what we've seen. Also, what we saw was a huge dip in the temperature. Like the temperatures in LA, they weren't as hot, but basically like 30 to 40 degrees. Less, so you knew that the ball wasn't going to be flying out of the ballpark. It was going to be a pitcher's night. So in that, it's really hard from game number 5 to expect that in game number 6. But this is a classic playoff baseball game. Good pitching, low scoring, good decisions, questionable stuff by the manager.
Right.
That's probably my biggest takeaway.
Your point about the weather's important. There should have been, almost was, a 3-run shot to break this game open. Any other night in Los Angeles this whole postseason, that would have been a 3-run shot. Every game in Houston this postseason, that would have been a 3-run shot. Instead, it ended up being a sac fly to the warning track that kept the Astros in this baseball game. But my biggest takeaway from last night is we deserved the Dodgers to win. And by we, I don't mean Fox. I don't mean Dodger fans. I mean America, baseball fans. Because what we have had in this series, let's just recap quickly Game 1, Clayton Kershaw is dominant. Gives himself a chance to kind of change his postseason narrative. Game 2, Kenley Jansen and the Dodgers bullpen, which had been untouchable, blows the lead in the 8th and lead in the 9th. Game 3 was a regular baseball game. Game 4, you have 5 runs in the 9th for a Dodger victory. Game 5, one of the greatest baseball games we've ever seen. Last night was good. It was interesting. It was close. It was compelling. But it was, like you mentioned, a compelling baseball game, which now gets us to Game 7. This series has had 2 classic games, 2 really interesting games, and 2 regular baseball games, and now we get to a Game 7, and I'm so excited for it.
The Dodgers took a gut punch. We all called it a legitimate gut punch, right? And came back and played Dodgers baseball, right? So I would say that Game 5 was more Houston baseball. A lot of offense, a lot of scoring.
Ton of home runs,
doing what they did all regular season long. Then the Dodgers came back and said, but hold on a second. Watch us. Like, watch our run prevention. Like, watch what we can do. Watch our pitching. Verlander went six innings of 2-run ball, which should have been good on any other night, but not when you play Dodgers baseball, and that's what they did, and give them some credit for coming back with their backs up against the wall, playing with their crowd under their lights and being able to pull
They
this
did
one out.
win, but it also comes with criticism. Now, I'm not one to typically criticize the coaches or the skippers, but Dave Roberts and what he decided to do with Rich Hill in the bullpen, pulled him out after 4 2/3, and put more stress on that bullpen. So now yes, they had to win the game, but now what do they have in tonight's game?
Right. I mean,
do they have anything left?
They had Kinley go 6
in
again.
getting it tied up at 3-3, yes, good job, Dodgers. But now, who do they go to? If they need middle reliever, they need long reliever, what do they do?
I think I know the answer to that. Because you're right, they had Kenley Jansen go 6 outs again. They pulled out. Rich Hill had pitched well, and they pulled him out before the end of the 5th inning, and he was not happy about it. He took it okay coming off the mound, and then he went to the dugout and started throwing stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
But what the Dodgers hope tonight is to use 2 pitchers, Yu Darvish and Clayton Kershaw. They hope Kenley Jansen is not needed. They want to do what the San Francisco Giants did against my hometown Kansas City Royals a few years ago in their Game 7. They got, I think, 3 innings in that game, maybe 4 innings from their starter, and they said, hey, Madison Bumgarner, our stud pitcher, the guy that carried us here, take us the rest of the way. He did that, and the Royals stranded the potential tying run on third base. You mentioned, CC, the managerial decisions. There was one managerial decision Dave Roberts didn't make that I want to give him credit for. He didn't put the bunt on. All the old school baseball guys, you have men on first and second. You have nobody out. John Smoltz.
The announcers were saying.
John Smoltz has been a revelation for a lot of America that doesn't watch a ton of baseball.
Yes.
How great he is.
He is very good.
John Smoltz is, all the credit Tony Romo's been getting as a color commentator, John Smoltz has been deserving the last few years. But my guy Smoltzy, he's like, listen, this is a spot where you bunt. This is a spot where you bunt. This is a spot where you bunt. You got to bunt here. You got to get, it's different second and third. Dodgers said, we're not giving you the free out. We're swinging away. And instead of getting 1 run that inning, they got 2 runs that inning, which helped Chase Verlander.
Yeah, but Smoltz also, to his defense, he's a National League guy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what he's done. It's the way he's been taught to play the game. So in giving him some type of credit, I like the fact that they did swing away. And as you like fantasy football, you like fantasy, you like to go against the grain of the percentages. And on occasion, it's really the right time to do it. And that was the right time.
Wouldn't Clayton Kershaw love the opportunity to rewrite the narrative? To be able to kind of dictate the way things are going to be written and said about him moving forward? Any
athlete that has that kind of asterisk on their career, either being, I haven't won a championship, I'm not a big-time player, I'm not clutch, I'm not you want to get in that situation so you can change the narrative. Right. And Kershaw has been one of the best that we've seen. This is a perfect spot for him.
Perfect.
You're totally right. But here's the thing, and this is where sports and sports commentary and myself and the people that do what we do are wildly unfair, especially the people who didn't play the games. We're even extra unfair. How Kershaw pitches tonight is important to whether or not the Dodgers win, obviously. Assuming he does pitch, I would imagine he'll be the first guy out of the bullpen. But the reality is this. If the Dodgers win the World Series, no matter how Clayton pitches tonight, if he does get to play, that monkey is off his back, and everyone focuses on his Game 1 performance. Well, if they lose the World Series, even if he pitches well, everyone will focus on the Game 5 performance. Like, we are not going to be fair with our analysis of Clayton Kershaw.
When you look at the numbers, though, Nick, he doesn't pitch as well, but they win.
They win.
The Dodgers do win. So the narrative is that, no, he can't pitch at all, and the team, when they need him, he comes up, small. No, he doesn't pitch as well as he normally would pitch, but the team typically wins most of those games.
They've won 8 of his last 10 postseason starts.
And
I didn't want to steal your stats, but...
Yu Darvish is due for a better outing than he had last time, too.
Correct, and the Astros on the road have been a simply different team this postseason.
Ray Lewis joins us now. It's going to go a bunch of guys watching college football, and I'll be in the corner if anyone wants to join me for some push-ups.
Speaking of college football,
you always doing push-ups, Jenna.
Throw up the U, Ray.
Hey, we all right.
Is the U back?
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
I like
That's
the way,
not commitment. I don't know what is.
That's not a fair question.
Ray's all in.
The U The U as we know it is never coming back.
Never going to be that U.
Oh, no, it's impossible, man. Watch the 30-30.
All right, yeah. Both of them. They got 2 of them. Yeah.
All right, Ray, we're talking about the Eagles. Philadelphia made a big move yesterday, bolstering their rush attack with a trade for Jay Ajayi. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, who are losing Zeke for 6 weeks and trail Philly by 2.5 games in the NFC East, stood pat at the deadline. Ray, will the Eagles run away from the Cowboys in the NFC?
You know what? I think I like the Eagles before they even signed the Jay Ajayi.
Yeah, Ray.
You know, and you
Ray, just make your comments towards that.
Because we're good on this side.
Right.
Every 30 seconds, reach out and touch him and let him feel that Philadelphia love. Give it to him, Ray.
No, you know what? I'm telling you, you look at a complete team, right? You're talking about tight end, quarterback position, offensive line, receivers. I mean, 2 receivers outside, Shepherds. And now you go get Jay Ajayi, you know, to add him to what I thought already was a physical run game when you bring LeGarrette Blount over from New England. And so now you have an aggressive defense. The front 7 of the Philadelphia Eagles are playing lights out right now, and they're not giving up anything. And so you ask yourself, what's the missing pieces to the teams, right? And my missing piece for the Dallas is if once you remove Zeke, the entire game changes. We talked about this the other day. And so now you have to ask yourself, in the NFC, who's that top dog? And for me, I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles saying, wow, the Philadelphia Eagles became that top dog with Carson Wentz.
See, but that's so. Let me ask you.
Yeah, please.
Because my concern with the Eagles, aside from the fact that I think without Jason Peters, the offensive line could struggle. The secondary, I know they have Ronald Darby coming back. The secondary hasn't been great this year. But my bigger picture concern with the Eagles is I feel like I've seen this before, where there is a really good young quarterback who the team's better than we expect early, and then come the playoffs, that learning curve hits you hard. We saw it with Andrew Luck 3 years ago. We saw it with Teddy Bridgewater 2 years ago. We saw it with Dak Prescott last year. I think we would have seen it with Derek Carr last year, but he got injured, so we didn't get a chance to see it. Like that, sometimes in the NFL, especially when you have a young quarterback, you get somewhere real quick. We saw it with Peyton Manning, by the way, in year 2 when they went 13-3, then got smacked down in the playoffs. And then you regroup and come back. That's my concern with Philadelphia.
Yeah, so who do you see in the NFC dethroning Philadelphia?
Oh, here we go.
So I think Seattle's the best team. I think Minnesota could give them trouble. I think Carolina could give them trouble. New Orleans been interesting. And I think Dallas, if they're in it, when Zeke gets back, I think Dallas could also give them trouble.
So what's Dallas' record going to be without Zeke to keep them in it? Because we're really talking about the NFC.
All they got to do is go 3-3 to still be in it. All they got to do is go 3-3.
While he's out.
While he's out. Now, I think Philly will win the division, but we're not talking about just winning the division. We're talking about making a run of the Super Bowl.
You're trying to utilize what Dallas did last year, 13-3 during the regular season, end up falling on their face in the divisional round. All right? All these other examples through NFL history, we're just going to put them on Philadelphia now. You know the reason why? Because we got no other excuse to make Philadelphia the reason why they're not good. So we're just going to pick out a couple teams in NFL history. Let's just pick them out. Let's just take with him. Let's just take them. Let's just take another team, all right? And then we're going to apply that to the Philadelphia Eagles. The question is, who is the favorite in the East? Who's going to run away with the East?
Eagles.
And that is the Eagles.
That's the Eagles.
All right?
Yeah.
They have the most impressive wins besides Kansas City and the most impressive loss besides Kansas City. Even though Nick would say, well, the game wasn't that close and everything.
No, I agree with you on the loss. I don't agree with you on the win. Like the Philadelphia.
Besides Kansas City. Who's more impressive?
To me, I don't think Philadelphia has a lot of impressive wins.
But there's not, Nick, this is the new NFL. There's not a whole team, a bunch of teams with impressive wins.
New England doesn't have any real impressive wins, and they're sitting at 6-2.
Right.
And the favorites.
And the Dallas team that was great last year, which I told you that they were going to lose in the playoffs.
Right. I'm surprised you're not saying the same thing about
The reason why, because Dallas was young last year. They hadn't had any success together. That wasn't a successful organization.
You're saying with Philly, it's just a young quarterback.
What's an impressive team?
What do you mean? Like
impressive win.
A specific team?
Yeah, what's an impressive win?
So I think Philadelphia's impressive win this year is against Carolina. A game where they dominated Cam. That's a win against a team that right now is 5-3, looks like a playoff team.
Yeah.
We've talked about the impressive wins Kansas City has against New England, against Philadelphia, against Houston. For Seattle, I can go through it. So Seattle, I would say their most impressive win was this weekend against Houston. right? Like we could go down the list. Like to me, an impressive win is if you win, it's helpful if it's comfortable, but if you get a win against a really good team. Philadelphia just hasn't played that many really good teams.
Let's just go over this situation, right? Because
my impressive win is any win.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a football league.
Yeah, but let's go over this. Let's just say Dallas is in playoff contention. All right? Because I think Ray can give us a little insight on this. Because of the suspension, and the type of suspension it is, Zeke is removed from the organization. The organization can't have contact with him. So his conditioning, his weightlifting, all that is on his own. It's his personal responsibility. When you got injured, you were on a team, you were telling the team, hold on until I get back. Now, he would be able to come back. He would have 3 games, right, that he'd be able to play.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
In those 3 games, getting banged up, 20, 25 carries a game, and then you're saying they're going to go 3 times in the playoffs without a bye. So he's going to play 6 weeks in a row after missing 6 weeks of conditioning. All right? I know you're not factoring that in there, but I factored that part in there. All right? Zeke is not going to come back in week number 6 like he was last Sunday or like he was 2 weeks ago. All right? Practicing and conditioning and being in the building is very, very important. What did we see with Le'Veon Bell when he missed training camp the first 2 games?
Took him a couple weeks to get together.
Oh, it took him a couple weeks. So why would we think that this wouldn't happen to Zeke or any other player?
So if that's the case, why are the Eagles shoring up their running game and Dallas didn't do anything? Why wouldn't Dallas go out and get a running back to at least get them through the next 6 weeks if they really like them this
you don't
this
think
year?
Dallas has their running back core right now? I mean, I think they do. I think
All
they
we
have
do
the
every
guys.
day is talk about how are they going to barely survive with Zeke on. So it sounds like they need to get someone.
Jenna, if when Tom Brady got suspended, all we talked about how they gonna hold on.
That's it.
That's all you can do with a great player. But there is no replacement.
You can't replace a great. You can't. So sometimes we always say, "Well, how
next
they
man up."
Right, next man up, next man up. Well, that's good to say, but at certain people, there's no next man up. That is, we just have to adjust without him. Because without Zeke, they're a totally different ball club. And that's what been saying. I mean, I have these arguments at my house every day, all day. You know, I got sons, and everybody wants to know. But this is a totally different ball club without Zeke. Dak Prescott is a totally different quarterback without Zeke. If that running game is not, there's no need for nobody to put 8 man in the box.
No.
If Zeke is out of the game.
And they don't have a great passing attack. They're going to get more pass coverage. Yeah. And they are a slow football team. They are not a fast, explosive, big play football team.
I think so. I think given everything you said there, Jenna's point was, so why wouldn't you add a guy like Jay Ajayi? I think, tell me, do you think Jay Ajayi is some big upgrade over Alfred Morris or Darren McFadden?
Well, no.
I think that's why.
Yeah.
No. But you have Zeke coming back, so it's not fair. You can't add that money to that room.
Right. Because he.
Yeah, it's too much money.
He will be in Philly probably a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, he's there for the long haul.
Blunt is on the 1 year deal.
Yeah, Blunt is there for a 1 year deal. You're talking about a back that's going to be there for a long time. Bringing Jay Ajayi to the Dallas Cowboys will do nothing because he's going to sit behind Zeke once Zeke get back. Right? So that doesn't help the Dallas Cowboys. The immediate help they have to figure out is, because me and Cris know, who is that guy? What is the system now that we put into place to keep pace with the Philadelphia Eagles? Because that's what they're going to have to do. I'm telling you, the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to watch them closely, Nick, because they're playing football in the NFC right now. When they beat Carolina the way they beat Carolina a few weeks ago, I sat back on my couch and said, wow.
And not only talented, but watch, there's a name. His name is Jim Schwartz. He's the defensive coordinator of Philadelphia.
I coach with Jim Schwartz.
Check out his resume. Check out the defenses and the type of front seven and the pressure that he has put on people.
Nobody. I want to make this clear. I'm not saying Philly's a bad football team. I'm saying I don't think they're the league's best football team.
Don't make that clear to us. You need to make that clear to America.
Okay, and Jim Schwartz, who you guys both have a lot of respect for, Jim Schwartz still has the 26 passing defense. And that offensive line...
Because their best cornerback's been hurt, Nick.
Okay. All right, and Cece, but we got to be fair here. If Zeke missing 6 weeks, he's not going to be able to come back immediately full strength. Ronald Darby missing 10.
Ronald Darby's been in the building, Nick.
Right, at half the time on crutches with a dislocated ankle.
Okay, but you know what? He's available tomorrow. What about Zeke? Where is he?
No, that's
okay. Let me know where he is.
He's chilling.
Oh, okay, thank you. You know what he's getting ready to do? He's getting ready to jump into that kettle. Remember he did that last year during the holidays? And getting ready to disappear for like 6 weeks. Which I told y'all long time ago.
Ray Lewis is joining us this morning. It's First Things First. We're talking about the New England Patriots. They traded their backup quarterback to the 49ers on Monday. Jimmy Garoppolo spent the last 4 seasons backing up Tom Brady, starting 2 games when Brady was suspended in 2016. That second game was cut short due to injury. Here's Bill Belichick discussing the trade.
We probably had, in my opinion, the best quarterback situation in the league for the last, call it 2.5 years. It's just not sustainable given the way that things are set up. It's definitely not something that we wanted to walk away from, and I felt like we rode it out as long as we could. We, over a period of time, explored every option possible to try to sustain it, but just at this point felt like we had to make a decision.
Ray, did Brady's success this season make it easy to trade Garoppolo or easier to trade?
I don't know. I think, if you think about Bill and you think about the way the Patriots deal with the organization, I think this is something that was thought out way before. He said it himself. They have put this on the table a few times before we got to this point. And you're talking about a great young talent, right? A great kid. And you're asking yourself, what do you do with him?
Yeah.
Do you leave him on the roster another 2 years if Brady decides to play? Absolutely not. And why? Because this guy's coming to him having conversations saying, Bill, look, let me play. Let me go somewhere else and play. You, if nothing else, you owe that to me, to let me go and figure out what else is out there for me. And I think when you think about the opportunity that both teams was able to do.
Well, Ray.
Tell me.
Give me the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I've never been in an NFL locker room. You're going to tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo walked into Bill Belichick's office and said, hey, do me a solid. I know you drafted me. I know I was behind Tom Brady.
It wasn't the first time. Jenna, I promise you it was not the first.
I want to go play. And Bill Belichick said, oh, okay, no problem.
I promise you this was not the first time this conversation was had.
No,
like
Bill
they
told us in the press conference.
He said it. He said it. Like,
I tried to do everything
possible.
I've had the best quarterback situation.
Not everything. They could have just paid him.
No way. And do what? And do what with Brady?
Well,
pay him to do what?
You could pay him franchise money and keep him there, and know that Brady doesn't have another 5 years in him.
It's not with the cap. You can't manage the cap that way, Jenna. All right, this is not Monopoly.
I'm gonna have to sit you down behind
the pie is only so big. They could not franchise him.
Right.
All right. He would have been making significantly more money than Tom Brady if they had franchised him. So at that point, they had to decide what is the best option. And like Ray, yes, he did have that conversation. You know the reason why? Because Bill Belichick offered him a contract.
Yeah.
All right. They offered him a long-term contract. When they slid that contract over to Garoppolo, Garoppolo's like, no, Coach, like, I don't want that. I want to be
So Bill Belichick had to choose between today and tomorrow, and he chose today.
It was the last day. They put the gun to his head.
Right.
No, I don't mean the trade deadline. I mean, they chose between now and the future, and they're banking on him giving you, Tom Brady giving you easily. Well, now he has to give you 2 or 3 more years.
No, he doesn't. They got draft picks.
Yeah.
There's 5 quarterbacks going to be taken in the first 2 rounds of this year's draft. All right?
Like, so really good quarterback.
Yes.
We all talked about that. There aren't very good quarterbacks coming out this year.
No.
Really?
There are good quarterbacks coming out.
There are good quarterbacks coming out.
All right, now I'll let you guys take over because you'll see.
As far as, I think what Jen's referring to is, I think the guy that people thought was going to be the clear-cut #1 pick, Sam Darnold, has disappointed. But that doesn't mean there's not people didn't see Mitch Trubisky all of a sudden being the #2 pick of the draft. Like, I don't think it's fair to say right now there's not going to be a lot of good quarterbacks coming out. I don't think we know that yet.
There's 5 quarterbacks predicted to be in the first 2 rounds of this year's draft.
So your point is that the Patriots, if they need, can use the pick they just traded for Garoppolo and use it to draft the next quarterback.
And put him in the same position.
Where the clock starts over at 4 years. But my read on this is, I don't know if it's different than your guys's, but it's maybe just from a different angle. I do think the Patriots now believe Tom Brady is not lying about wanting to play not another year or 2, but another 4 or 5. And with his play having not trailed off, like this year, I was the guy, 40-year-old quarterbacks, never been successful, ever. Like, go through the list. There's no reason to believe he can do it. And now at the midway mark of the season, who's leading the league in yards per game? Tom Brady. Who's leading the league in big plays? Tom Brady. Second league in passer rating? Tom Brady. And you then also have, and I know, Chris, I think you're going to disregard it. I don't know what you think of this, Ray. But you have the fact that Brady just wrote a whole book about how the way he handles his nutrition, his body, his workouts, which is a business he owns, TB12. They sell $200, things to wear to bed. It's a big business he wants to get into. It is predicated on him saying to the world, because I treat my body like this, I can play until I'm 45. So he's extra incentivized. And he wrote throughout the book, this is what I want to do. This is what I plan to do. To play longer than anyone ever has at this high of a level.
Nick, listen to me. Okay, I'm going to talk to you carefully because I want you to understand me.
I'm going to eavesdrop,
just
letting you know.
They've had this conversation too many times over, right? Tom, how long are you going to play? I talked to Tom at the Super Bowl MVP thing a couple years ago. Say, Tom, how long are you going to play? Oh, man, I'm keep riding this thing out. Ride it out. What you think he told Bill Belichick? I'm going to ride this thing out. Garoppolo, he came to me, he said simply, listen, Tom ain't going nowhere for a while. Nope. I'm going to ride this thing out. Grupp said, I got to go.
Yeah, so I talked to Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
Robert Kraft said there's a clear date that Bill Belichick wants to coach to. He said there's a clear date that Tom Brady wants to play to. Now, that was this summer.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care anything about what you're talking about. I talked to the owner who said he talked to the coach.
Then hold up. Then my only question is this, that if this is all true and everyone's known it, then why, when the Patriots were making all these moves this offseason to improve their team for this year, trading for Brandon Cooks, trading for Coney Ely, trading for Dwayne Allen, why would they not have made this Garoppolo move 8 weeks ago, before 12 weeks ago, 16 weeks ago, before the season, when they could have added a player that helps them this year? Either a draft pick from this past year's draft or a player that can help the team right now.
Well, for one, Nick, it's not fair to us for you to ask us a question to explain why New England, why they're doing something. No one knows why New England. Now, we can give you some guesses, but it doesn't make sense. You need, if Tom Brady was 40, you have 8 weeks of insurance. Now you don't need as much. You're halfway through the season.
Yeah.
So you've kind of seen what, even if they thought your theory was true, now that Tom Brady's to this point and we're at the trade deadline, I better move this guy now before he leaves in 8 weeks as a unrestricted free agent, and I get nothing for him.
Well, then I'll ask another question that maybe you think is a more fair question. Why did no one, if this is all the case, everyone knew all these things, Brady's going to keep playing, Garoppolo wants to play somewhere else, why was no one discussing, anticipating, predicting that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be traded this week? This was, you and I both called this move shocking yesterday. Why, if people
Maybe New England overplayed their hand. Maybe they asked too much last year during the draft. They asked for the draft picks that were too high. They said they wanted 2 number ones. No one came up with 2 number ones.
No one came up with even 1 number one, it turns out.
You know what? So they took the asset. They kept the asset. They trained this whole offseason. They got a taker in San Francisco, and they traded them for the best.
They don't lose. What Chris saying, they don't lose with the route that they went. So no matter how we want to draw it up or you want to draw it up, they don't lose going the route. They don't lose going out and get the Cooks and going out and getting all those free agents.
The only way they lose is Tom Brady gets hurt.
The only way they lose if Tom Brady get hurt. That's the only loss that New England has. That's the only risk.
And they still got a draft pick for next year that they can use as an asset.
I just think, I'm just telling you this. Knowing the Patriots, this is not a first-time thing. This is not a first-time conversation, Jenna, that they went to Rob and said, man, we're going to find a
And potentially, Nick, maybe there wasn't the player out there. They've added a couple other players. They tried to. Maybe there wasn't that player that we were in love with that we can add to the roster. I know in talking to Robert Kraft, he told me we're trying to win every year that we have number 12. Every year that he's the starter, Chris, we're trying to win the Super Bowl. So the way
Which, by the way, I support that. I was one of the voices in the wilderness this offseason saying they should, believing once they were clearly in win now, let's win back-to-back for the first time since 03-04, that Garoppolo was a big asset, that as your backup quarterback, you hope he never sees the field, so move him for a guy that can help you now. I don't criticize the trade. I just think the Patriots...
The teams that wanted quarterbacks, maybe they didn't have a player that New England wanted. So why make a bad trade just because you're trading a quarterback?
Well, no, but they could have gotten, if they trade him before the draft, they could have gotten a draft pick in this year's draft that would help them, a player
They
that would be helping them
overplayed
this
their
year?
hand.
Okay, all right.
It just has the feel of the team starting out saying, let's not do anything. Let's just wait and see what he gives you. Because he gave you a really bad first half in the Super Bowl where he didn't look like a guy who was going to play another 5 years. Then he gave you a great second half in the Super Bowl. Hold on.
Don't believe me.
Let's just wait and see. Let's see how he feels. Let's see how he's doing. Give him 8 weeks.
There's one thing New England got confidence in, and that's number 12.
Yeah,
Now, there might be
simple, man.
question marks all up and down that roster, but number 12 was not the question
So
mark.
what does number 12 have to do before we know that it's over? Because he's had a couple glimpses of it. Like, what happens? What does number 12 have to show you? Not make the playoffs? Have a terrible year statistically? Like, what has to happen before they move on?
He just has to wake up one morning and
So
say,
it's him?
You know what, Bill? I'm done.
So Bill's going to ride him out no matter what.
Why wouldn't you ride him out?
Because
I mean,
it's just,
I'm trying to say, we're trying to get rid of Tom Brady. Why
No,
would you?
I'm not.
So what?
I'm just curious what we're all talking about
Tom
the future.
Brady said-
We're having that conversation.
Tom Brady said, I got the answers to the test. Why should I stop taking the test?
Can I?
Right. I got the
your
answers to all tests.
answers
I
are
go out
wrong.
there and play against these inexperienced defenses
Yeah.
who don't know how to read me, who I'm doing
Yeah.
out routes and in routes,
No,
and they
I
ain't figured
want
that
to
out
see him
yet.
keep playing. I was just curious
I-
what would have to happen.
I want to
for
ask
him.
you one more
Yeah.
question, because when we're talking about pantheon players, like you were in the pantheon of your position just like Brady was with his, and you had the answers to the test just like he has the answers to the test. At some point, your body said, no matter how many answers you got, I am not. The body and the brain are not on the
Yes.
same page.
Yeah.
How
Totally. First of all, I always
The
separate
position.
this. Totally different position. You're talking about a quarterback who may have had 2 real serious injuries. I went through 9. Like the pounding that you go through from a middle linebacker position, from a linebacker position, period.
So
There's
you're
no
not
comparison.
Shocked, you're not shocked that Brady still.
Absolutely.
I played
not.
wide receiver until I was 37 years old.
Right.
If I was a quarterback, I could play till I'm 43, 45.
Easily.
Definitely.
Easily. You're not hitting in training camps.
Definitely.
You're not beating your body up in the
Definitely.
off-season.
But how do you
Okay.
feel about it?
I would have played till I
Do you
was
think
47.
you can?
Played till you're
I know
40.
I
If I was a
could.
quarterback.
Like, I know I could have.
Interestingly
easily.
enough,
Yeah. I mean,
feel like
Jenna,
we
stop.
could keep
You
talking
need to,
about
I need
this.
to sit you behind the ropes.
Okay, and give me a full tutorial, Ray. I get it. And please, for the record, I would love to see him play. I think it makes for a fantastic storyline.
Nah,
I was
man,
just
you
curious.
off the air, you be talking about
That
how
is
much
not
you hate
true.
Tom Brady.
And don't off the air man me. That is not true. I
Nah,
actually
man.
really.
You're like
my kids
Philly
have
all the
little
way.
Tom Brady jerseys. I do like Philly.
There's one thing, too, that you talked about the Pantheon player. The one thing we have to calculate. Pantheon players have a little more control as far as their exit than other players.
They really do.
All right, so when we have this conversation, you need to put that in the equation.
You
all
always
right?
have to.
When Tom Brady talks to Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, it's a different conversation that they've had with any other man.
Anybody else.
All right? Ray Lewis told the people, wait on me. I tore my arm off. I'll be back.
my arm off.
I'll be back. Trust me.
So-
Because of his pedigree and because of his football integrity, they said, you know something? We're going to trust him a little more than we normally do. We would normally put this guy on injury reserve and go get another player. Tom Brady has that built up
Tom
in New
Brady
England.
will not stop playing until Tom Brady says, today I will stop playing.
100%.
They're going to just ship
It's
him
not
out
going
there
to
no
be because
matter
of you
what
two.
he does.
It's not going to be because of y'all.
I'm not trying to get
It's not
rid.
going to be
How
because of
come
you
you
and
can't
Jenna.
stand Tom Brady so much?
not-
Every time off the air, I hate Tom Brady.
Well, that's kind of true.
Welcome back to First Things First. LeBron and the Cavs had a players-only meeting last night. This after starting the season 3-4 and losing 4 of their last 5
I'd
games.
like to read the copy and everyone.
Go, Nick. Read the question.
Okay,
What
now
question
I'm
do you
going to
think?
read the question.
Read the question.
Cece, what happens in a players-only meeting, and how concerned should LeBron and the Cavs be?
More important, where does a meeting like this take place? Is it at LeBron's house? Is it at the team? Are they there at night? Where's a players-only meeting take place?
It typically happens in the locker room.
In the locker room.
And typically you have all the coaches and everyone else, the rest of the personnel, leave out of the room. And it's a great time for the voices of the players you don't hear from, because they can add a lot of insight and they see things compared to the star players, veterans that you have on the bench, Fry, Kyle Colbert, those kind of guys in the insight, because we know how LeBron probably feels. We know how Kevin Love probably feels, but this is an organization that is in transition. And we didn't anticipate that with the Kyrie trade. But with Kyrie, when he demanded that trade, it made this team that they were going to have a couple tough months, because who they traded for, the dominant player in the trade,
Not playing.
Isaiah Thomas, he's not playing. LeBron hurts his ankle the second day of training camp. These are things that we didn't know. So the struggle in the NBA, when you add new talent, we have seen other teams get off to a slow start. Golden State, with basically the same team, they're off to a slow start. So I'm not overly concerned about what they have going on in Cleveland. If they were in the West, I would be more concerned, because the seeding in the West is far more important than it is in the East. But there's legitimate concerns about Cleveland. And for you to have a team meeting this early for a team that's been so successful the last 3 years, it's important and it's real.
Nick, I've asked you a number of different times and a number of different ways, applauding my own interviewing skills, if you are concerned, A, about this team, B, about the lineup they're putting out there, C, about their record, D, about their stamina, level of play, heart, desire, whatever you want to call it, and you have maintained all along, not worried, not concerned. They'll be exactly where they need to be come, you know, 3 months from now when IT gets here and everyone's back in play and all of it. But clearly these guys, there are flags that are going up for them if they have to call meetings, if Tyronn Lue has to talk about stamina issues and heart, and these guys need to start learning how to play. Is this a bigger issue maybe than you thought or than we thought it was?
No. I mean, I've been very honest that this Cavs team right now, I think I said after the 3rd game of the year, I think I called them a total mess. After their 6th game of the year, I said this is the worst team LeBron's been on since 2007. But this is not baseball. This is not football. This is not hockey, where one guy cannot carry you all by himself. This is the NBA, where one guy absolutely can carry you all by himself.
One guy can carry you to the Eastern Finals. One guy can potentially carry you to the finals, but one guy can't carry you to a championship. Now, that is universal at the NHL, MLB, and the NFL.
That I totally agree with. But we are 7 months away, one All-NBA player addition away. One, you got to imagine they will add pieces at the deadline because they have every year since LeBron's been there away from being to the NBA Finals. And we also don't know what the atrophy the West is going to suffer from the Thunder and the Spurs and the Rockets and the Warriors all beating each other up in the 2 rounds leading up to it. The Cavs are not a good basketball team right now. Period, point blank. If the question is, are the Cavs good right now? No, they're not. Do the Cavs look right now like a playoff team? They don't. Do they look like a championship team? Absolutely not. But the question is, how concerned am I? And the Cavs, I'm not invested in the Cavs winning 60 games. I'm not invested in the Cavs being the 1 seed. I'm invested in it. Are the Cavs going to make the finals again? Are they going to be competitive in the finals? Are they going to potentially win the finals? All of those objectives are still not only easily attainable, but things that I anticipate they will attain. They have to fix some things, though.
Cece, let me ask you this, and I think we just touched up on it in the segment earlier. How does a guy like LeBron James, who sometimes can be a little passive-aggressive, and we've known this about him.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just being nice. How does a guy like this stand up in that locker room and motivate this team so it's not just words and it's not just, hey, I'm doing it, you guys should do it too? How does he get through to them?
Well, LeBron, his leadership, for the most part throughout his career, it hadn't been questioned. I mean, he is a great leader. Not only a great talent, he is a great leader. And LeBron is probably not condemning the players. He's just like, these are some of the things we need to do. LeBron doesn't get credit, and the reason why I know this is because I've talked to other great players, Ray Allen, Shane Battier, teammates his, Shaq, and they say LeBron's the smartest basketball player they've ever been around, that they've ever seen. So LeBron understands, like, what they're going through, and it's not as if LeBron and his team haven't struggled before. He struggled with even more talented teams when he first went to Miami. That's well documented, how they started the first 15 games. But they were way more talented. The thing that I'm concerned about, and LeBron's not going to be able to change this, and I think Nick should be concerned about this, because right now they're not a good basketball team, all right? They're not a good offensive basketball team. They're not a good defensive basketball team. They're not a good rebounding basketball team. And they're a team without a set lineup. Tristan Thompson, he's in the lineup now. Kevin Love goes from the 5 to the 4. Crowder, he was a starter. Now he's on the bench. JR was on the bench. Now he's starting. And D-Wade, so they have no type of rhyme or reason to what they're doing. But this is what I do know. when Isaiah Thomas comes back, they're still going to be a bad rebounding team. They're still going to be a bad defensive team.
They might be a worse defensive team.
So they got real problems that will last beyond this 7 months.
But we also have to recognize the context to which they came into the season. The Cavs, unlike more so, I should say, than any other team this offseason, got absolutely blindsided by what Kyrie requested and what they ended up doing. They did not anticipate trading Kyrie Irving. They had not planned to trade Kyrie Irving. They did not have it wasn't even like Oklahoma City where you knew he was a pending free agent and he might leave even if you hope to keep him. There was the two teams in the league that have suffered the biggest stomach punch that you didn't see coming were the Cavs with Kyrie and the Celtics with Gordon Hayward's injury. Now, Gordon Hayward's injury, while devastating, that is something that you can potentially rally around. That is not something that creates hurt feelings, that creates discontent in the locker room. The Cavs, on the other hand, you don't think that there was a butterfly effect of the second best player not wanting to be there, the second best player publicly turning on the best player, the second best player getting out when Kevin Love likely multiple times throughout the last 3.5 years has thought, man, this isn't the place for me. I should get out. So the Cavs, they didn't anticipate this, and they have not responded to it well. But part of that also is the player you traded your second best player for is not playing.
Right.
Like if I would have told you before the year, CC, the Cavs are going to trade Kyrie Irving for Jay Crowder straight up, you would say,
no shot.
Well, they're going to be worse. They're going to struggle.
Is this a
but
different...
I still would have said they're going to win the East because LeBron is still better than anyone else in the East.
Don't you still think they're going to win the East?
Nick, they're playing so bad right now. I couldn't even look that far out. They're an awful basketball team. They play an awful brand of basketball. Now, maybe you can see beyond that, all right? But they are a bad basketball team. It's not even... We shouldn't even have the conversation, should they make it to the East. Like, we don't know what's going to be there at the end of the East. But the Cavs right now, this is the baddest Cavs team I've seen in a long time.
It's pretty
Right.
bad,
So
Cavs.
that part is a
bad
fact.
as a bad way that time, not bad as the good
I
way.
hate when I
know
get
you get confused.
Dear Webster.
So, Jenna,
getting
by
on
the
this
way-
No, my question is, if Kyrie's on this team, is this the same team? Or are we not talking about any of this?
Everything's different. They're not shuffling their lineups nearly as much. It's the same continuity as last year. Like, everything's different.
If LeBron misses all the training camp, they're still going to struggle at the beginning of the season.
Like this? With Kyrie on that team? They're going to struggle
yes.
like this?
Look
Losing
at
4 or 5?
Look at Kyrie's record with and without LeBron, all right? Offensively, they would still be better. They'd still be a bad rebounding team. They still wouldn't be motivated because they've been to 3 straight finals. They would still be the same. Their bench was worse, all right? So when LeBron was off the court, that's when they lost all the big leads. So Kyrie's no franchise saver. Look what he's doing in Boston.
And
we had to highlight him last night. Kyrie has an amazing game. 24 and 6.
Jenna, it sounds to me, just to make this kind of full circle, you know what a players-only meeting reminds me of?
What?
Festivus. It's your airing of grievances.
For the rest of us. And what I was going to say is I did know that was bad because I was going to jump back at you with that Michael Jordan. He's so phony because it's bad is good. It's from...
We had a good joke to end the segment on.
Coming up.
Festivus joke.
If you've ever watched
Hey, you know something? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a big box of cornflakes up here.
No,
so when she says something...
No, that was a line. It's a line from
Coming up.
The college football playoff rankings came out yesterday in a surprise. Georgia is number 1. Alabama was right behind them at number 2. Rounding out the top 4 are Notre Dame and Clemson, followed by Oklahoma 5th and Ohio State 6th. CC, break this down a little. Did the committee get this right?
I thought the committee did a tremendous job. But because, first of all, let's say this. The job of the college football playoff system and the committee is to get the 4 best teams into the playoff. And I think they started off very right. And Notre Dame has an impressive resume. But the most striking thing was Georgia was number 1. And Georgia, with that 1-point loss at Notre Dame, it really helped Notre Dame's resume.
Georgia with the 1-point win.
1-point win, it really helped Notre Dame because I thought Notre Dame would be caught behind Oklahoma and Ohio State. There'll be Oklahoma, Ohio State, and then Notre Dame. Notre Dame also being an independent and not having a championship game, it's important to them that they're in the top 4 from the beginning. So it's going to be very exciting. The SEC typically has 2 teams at the top, and Oklahoma should be ahead of Ohio State because regardless, that happened. They beat Ohio State in Ohio with a decisive victory. So I know they lost to Iowa State, but Oklahoma being ahead of Ohio State, I think they got that part right, too.
You and I were discussing this earlier, and you made, I thought, a really interesting point about what Georgia being number 1 means for the SEC and getting 2 teams in.
Yes.
Like that Georgia is now set up, and correct me if I'm misquoting here, but Georgia is set up to be able to lose the SEC championship
because
game.
the committee has made them number 1, and Georgia has a lot better record, lot better schedule, a strength of schedule than Alabama has. Alabama won't have that until after the SEC championship being an undefeated Georgia team.
So if Georgia and Alabama, as is expected, now both of these teams have to go to Auburn and win, and Auburn's a good football team, but let's assume they both go into the SEC championship game 12-0. Does the SEC championship game all of a sudden not matter? Because both teams are in?
It matters to the fact, but you still have to get the best teams there. Georgia and Alabama would have the best resumes. One of those teams lose in a very good game. I could see one going to 4. All right, I could see one going to 3. Also, I believe the committee wouldn't send 1 to 4 because they wouldn't want the matchup in the semifinals. They'd send 1 to 3, all right, so that they can have 2 versus 3, 1 versus 4.
My only takeaway, and I thought you guys would have a bigger issue with this, is that Georgia was above Alabama as number 1. And I know you guys say there's a lot of college football left, but here's a Georgia team that was probably a year or 2 away from being where they are with a second-year head coach that doesn't have the branding of an Alabama.
I'll tell you why, though.
Number 1.
It's because
strength of schedule.
Right. Both of these teams in week 2 played, or for Georgia in week 2, Alabama in week 1, played what we thought were marquee games.
Yes.
Georgia playing Notre Dame, Alabama playing Florida State.
Yes.
Florida State has fallen apart, so that is no longer a marquee win. Florida State's not even going to be
playing like FAU now.
Right. They're not even going to be bowl eligible.
No.
Meanwhile, Notre Dame is evidently, they think, one of the 3 best teams in the country.
And Notre Dame's been impressive in their 3 victories. Michigan State, North Carolina State, and
USC.
They dominate all 3 of those oppositions.
And so they look at it and they say, okay, Alabama has been thoroughly dominant, but they don't have that one signature victory over an outstanding team the way even Ohio State does. Like what Ohio State and Oklahoma have going for them, the reason that they are the one-loss teams along with Clemson at the top is those teams they're like, wow, Oklahoma did go to the horseshoe and win that game. Wow, Ohio State did just beat the number 1 scoring defense in football, college football, Penn State, with an amazing comeback. So I understand right now it is less about how bad was your loss and more about how good were your wins. And that's what Clemson being number 4 told me. But every team on here, Clemson's the only one with a bad loss. Like, you can say Oklahoma shouldn't have lost to Iowa State, but Iowa State then just went and beat TCU.
Yes.
Iowa State's a top 25 team. So of the teams in the top 6, you have Notre Dame, they have a 1-point loss to Georgia. That's a good loss if such a thing exists. Ohio State has a loss to Oklahoma. That's a good loss, even though it was a dominant loss, but you lost to a good team. Oklahoma's 1 loss to Iowa State. You can deal with it. Clemson being number 4, despite having a bad loss. Syracuse is 4-4. That's the one that surprised me the most about these rankings.
Right. Now, don't blame Alabama. Alabama plays a very tough schedule. They didn't know that Florida State would be down. Florida State's supposed to be a top 5, top 10 team this year. But later in the season, they still have LSU, they still have Auburn, and they still have the SEC championship. So they still have the quality where they can get their strength of schedule way up there. So to be very formidable at the end.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.